Get Local, CJTR's local business spotlight featuring amazing community-oriented supporters.
Vintage Vinyl has been your music and more store for over 30 years. Choose from the latest band tees and great selection of unique tie-dyes. Plus, thousands of used records, CDs, and cassettes. You have to check out the 19-plus Bong World behind the beaded curtains. Shop in store or online at vintagevinyl.ca and bongworld.ca. Vintage Vinyl and Hemp Emporium. Look for the big yellow awning downtown, 2335 11th Avenue in Regina and 132 Main Street North in Moose Jaw.
Get Local. Support those businesses that support 91.3 FM CJTR Regina Community Radio.
91.3 FM CJTR Regina Community Radio. Tuned into the community. Our programming is brought to you by community-minded organizations like SGEU and by listeners like you.
Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention, please?
This is Kathy from Getting Chatty with Kathy, and today's guest is Megan McCormick, a lovely lady here in the city that I have known since we were probably, I want to say you were 17, so I was probably like 20.
Yep, that sounds...
Yeah.
Like that could be true, yep.
Wow. Like time and like, it just goes like this. So we've known each other for over half our lives. And one of the things I really love about Megan is she is a passionate Regina person. She has put her handprint on many local organizations. I know you have a very, very good lens for what's going on in Regina. So I had to have you on the show to chit chat. And honestly, you guys, I probably you're not going to hear my voice much more because Megan knows everything about this city and she knows it much better than me. So I told Megan I would say, let's take a time machine. Waynesville. Let's go back to, oh my gosh, okay, 20 years. So we're 2006-ish, 2007.
Okay.
Jer's back from, let's go Jer's back from Korea. Life starts, bam. What are we doing?
So I am one of those Regina products that married my high school boyfriend. And
a wonderful guy.
Yes, he's great. And I often think that I didn't necessarily decide to stay in Regina. We just did. There wasn't a lot of active, let's stay here. But around 2006, 2007, that's when we were finishing university. Trying to figure out what the next step were. I've always been involved in performing arts, dance, that kind of thing, and trying to figure out how to make a career of things like that. So that was in 2007. Actually, I was working at the Globe Theatre doing front of house, and that was the first year I worked at Regina Symphony Orchestra, which has played a huge part in my life professionally and in my personal life as well. I started as the box office manager at Regina Symphony Orchestra, which is an incredible... it was founded in Regina in 1908. It's an incredibly long-running institution that's had thousands of musicians go through it, and I've always felt it's just the coolest thing that our little city has kept a symphony going for this long. Of course, I didn't know any of that until I started working there. But then, I've just been kind of on a journey, I guess, since then of working at various places with, I think my total passion is just making Regina as exciting and as wonderful a place to live as we all know it is, but
yeah.
And not even necessarily trying to recruit new people to come here, but I think just celebrating the people that are here, making everything great. And I guess I've just constantly made my work life help that passion, and with volunteering and stuff too. But yeah,
I think that's really interesting, though, that even at a young age, you were you had the common sense to follow passion. Like, a lot of us struggled at that period of our lives where we had to decide, okay, what's our passions and how do we want to make money? And I, for one, I did not pick the right direction for a long time, and I had an internal struggle with it. So I think that that's brilliant that you actually, because I remember you being like such a great dancer. No, we were both in that world, and we loved it. And I remember just you get stuck in that arts world, and having your, like, being tapped into that, I think keeps your like passion boiling, and it's something wonderful to watch in your career.
Yeah. Well, there's something like growing up dancing and doing exams and competitions and stuff, but like being in front of an audience. I think there's a skill set that develops where, like, I would honestly say kind of fearless in front of a group of people. And that is developed when you're getting pushed out onto stage in a tutu and lipstick.
It's a huge skill set.
And I guess it was just trying to figure out how do you make money with this? But
and be happy.
Yeah. But it's interesting even because when I went to university, I really had no idea what I wanted to do. And I think just generationally or something, like, I didn't even really think that marketing or public relations were like career options. I don't think I even knew those words. But then I sort of took the long way, and now, like, community engagement, community development, all that kind of stuff, like, that's exactly, I know that's always where I wanted to be. And I just didn't have the language, I guess, for it. So but then I also really have fallen in love with nonprofits, which, when you talk about making money, I mean, that's not a journey that, we're not retiring early or anything, but there are so many amazing nonprofits powering events in the city that I love being a part of that community. And it's people that they're not there because they're getting sweet pension packages and they're getting, every Friday off. They're there because they really want to make a difference.
It's important to them.
Yeah, it's important work.
Well, and I notice on your social media, just being your friend, you go to a lot of these things and you take your daughter.
Yeah.
And I love that.
Yeah.
Because she has had now this window of what's going on. So if you were Finley, what's her take on Regina? Because I bet you she's a really good advocate.
Well, yeah, it's quite funny. So my daughter's 10, and I've been working at various, like, jobs with events, and just in, keeping the schedule going and stuff, she has to come with me to a lot of things. I think it's great, to see those behind-the-scenes things, especially now that I, again, working Regina Symphony, like, her going backstage and meeting these artists that, they might not be, like, famous on the sidewalk in Regina, but they're, really important people in the classical music sector. And, my daughter's getting to interact with them.
And she
like,
understands that that's important.
Yeah,
without culture, you don't have society.
Yeah, but, like, the cool factor of it, too, like, she's, I think, been presented with some opportunities just because of that, like, my musical friends, like, she's been in a music video.
Is that Jeffrey's?
It's Jeffrey Streeter,
I think I saw that. It was absolutely
she calls
adorable.
that her song with him, and I just, I think, I mean, I don't know, sometimes I'm like, I mean, I've never lived or worked anywhere else, so I don't really have a comparison, but I'm just like, I feel like that Regina is special and that kind of stuff can happen, that, like, Jeff Drake and I have been friends for a long time. He has a niece the same age as my daughter, and he happened to need some cute kids for a music video. Finley now, it's like one of her claims to fame that she's been in a music video. It's so cool. And that was like, I mean, it helps with, like, as mom guilt of when you're working, like, crazy hours and at events and stuff, knowing that I can offer her these really cool experiences.
I noticed last weekend, actually, we were, or a few weekends ago now, you were walking by my booth at the Cathedral Arts Festival, and you were telling me that she was selling out lemonade at a lemonade stand. And I thought, you know what, right on. Like, kids at this age, there's limitless opportunities, and thank you for leaning into for her.
They're so confident. I think that's something that's interesting as, like, an elder millennial or whatever. Like, we were told to be good at, I don't know, whatever. Like, it was a journey, I think, to being able to, like, know that this is how I want to present myself. But I mean, you probably know too, like, these 10-year-olds, like, they decide to do something and they do it,
and they don't dim their light at all.
No, it's great.
And
they're also, like, they have emotional intelligence and stuff too. And again, I think in the world that I'm working in, like, demonstrating to our, my daughter, who, like, hopefully, I don't know if she's going to choose to live her life in Regina. She has lots of big dreams, and but I think demonstrating, like, how do you support a community if it's, if you're in a big city and you're part of a smaller community, if you're in a smaller community like Regina where you can really make a difference, like demonstrating how it's possible to do those things.
Well, can you tell our viewers, because maybe somebody's new to Regina and they don't know how to get into the community, because I've witnessed in bigger cities, you can just drop in because everybody's transient, right? But Regina, we have this idea that we're all from here and like we don't make friends. That's not the case. You need to put yourself out there to make friends wherever you are.
But I think it's interesting, like, the not from here kind of attitude. Like, again, I've only lived here. I've moved here when I was 2. I interact with people I literally went to kindergarten with. I know I'm not alone in this, which I think, you know, growing up, we weren't thinking that we still would be connected to these people. Like, there's people they're 5 years old and they're business owners in the city that we interact with and stuff.
But isn't that a beautiful thing?
I think it's the best.
It's like, I know you. I remember when you were running around crying about something or whatever. Yeah. And like, we can connect as real people.
Yeah,
then.
I think, but then I can totally see when you're new here and you choose to make Regina your home for whatever reason, and then sitting here being like, oh yeah, this is my friend since kindergarten, you know, when we're in our 40s, like, I can totally see that being really challenging to break into. I also think because of that, Regina, like, we do things we're comfortable doing. And I think the city, it takes, and I mean, it's interesting when I'm like, I've spent so much of my like work life trying to get people to show up for things. I'm just as bad of like, I'd rather stay home, you know, fighting against those energies. But
especially after COVID, I think we really have gotten comfortable at home. And we have all the things now.
Yeah, totally. Well, that's the thing. And especially like working in, you know, I work for a symphony, and anything you really want to hear, you can find on your phone, on your computer. You probably have sweet speakers at home, all that kind of stuff. So, and it's happened in a lot of places where you can access the thing we were giving you before at home, on your couch, where you're comfortable. So how do we get people to activate again and show up for things, find a babysitter, put on jeans, whatever, and show up for the live things that really mean something? And I think particularly like in the whole idea of supporting local, like a symphony orchestra, you know, we have 60 artists who have chosen to build their lives here. And, you know, when you look at something like the Rough Riders or like all these different organizations that draw people into the city for work, you know, we're getting people, the symphony's drawing people in that are paying property taxes and getting groceries and all that kind of stuff. Like, it's an incredible story of how to, like, you can support local by showing up and watching these people practice their art.
Full disclosure.
Yeah.
Megan got me to go to the symphony. I want to talk about this because you'll see, you know, like, I've never been to the symphony before, and I'm embarrassed about that because, like, I've grown up here too. I was born at the...
And you're a ballerina? Like,
yes, I've been on the stage. I've had people play instruments while I've been on stage, but I myself have never taken the time to celebrate the people that had learned those instruments.
Yeah.
And I felt a little bit like I'm embarrassed, and I didn't know the etiquette for her or anything. So Megan's I reached out to Megan because of all of her experience in many different facets of the city, and I wanted to talk about the symphony because I do think it is an important part of our culture. And I'm so grateful that you let me experience it because it took my breath away. I remember going back in the day, like, maybe I'm older now and I can appreciate it seriously, like, a different way. I remember when we were kids, the band, grade 6, 7, 8, would play their little, like, thing in the gym, and you would listen to it, and I did not enjoy it, honestly. It was painful. And then I remember getting older and getting introduced to going to concerts and shows and bands, and I loved all of that. And I remember feeling alive going to shows. But I never put that together with, like, the symphony.
Yep.
And then I took my daughters, because Megan, like me, I want my girls to come to everything with me. My goal is to beat Gilmore Girls ×2. It really is. I love Gilmore's. So anyways, so I take them, and one of my kids is like 6, 7. Like, she, bless her heart, she sat through, like, the piano, and they all just zoned in. But I think at my age, I felt it. Yeah. Like, it was, I forget, it was like, what was the piano?
Tchaikovsky's first piano concerto. It's like, I mean, I don't know, it always sounds so funny to be like, it's one of the most famous pieces of music because, like, people don't know the name and stuff. But it's like, yeah, and that's
you recognize it.
It's very recognizable.
And this dude from he wasn't
Vancouver.
You guys flew him in, and his fingers moved like he had an extra set. Like, it was incredible, and it made me feel like I was experiencing it.
Yeah.
Like, it was crazy.
Well, I've said for a long time that my favorite thing, and I think when I boil down any volunteer job, anything that I've really liked, it's when a group of people are doing the same thing at the same time.
Collective thought, passion.
I love it when it's people in an audience all having the same experience. And I think growing up here too, like going to shows, like I love thinking about how many people I'm in an audience with that I've been in an audience with before that I don't know.
Totally.
How many, and it happens at the symphony, but then also we have the cohort of people on stage doing the same thing.
Timed perfectly, all in sync. And as a dancer, we understand.
It's beautiful. Well, they all have a different job and a different role to play, and they, it's like a team. But it's something that is so worth seeing live. That I'm not a musician. Like, I chose to dance. I did, like, when in grade 6, when you get to choose to play school band, that was the year I was supposed to go on point for ballet, and my mom made me make a choice.
You're right.
I chose my point shoes.
But your instrument was your body of expression. Right. It's beautiful.
But I feel like, but I feel like when you look at orchestra, and we talk about being embarrassed, like, I think and it happens, I would say, in a lot of art forms where you feel like you don't know enough to even start engaging, right?
Yes.
And that is, especially in a market like Regina, that's not a sustainable business model. Like, we have to have our doors open to everybody in whatever way they want to meet us. And so, and especially I think taking away it feeling like an academic kind of experience.
Stuffy.
You're still going to learn things. You're still going to see things that, I love, like, the behind the scenes stories of stuff. And I know that I don't know, I have this game where I try to, like, stump our musicians because they look at the world through how their instrument and, the history of it and that. And I'm going like, hey, did you know that Tchaikovsky and Brahms had the same birthday and they hated each other? So I've been really trying to use that lens to make the symphony seem more appealing to people in Regina, because I fell in love with it as a non-musician. I don't have the, music theory background, all that kind of stuff, but I appreciate the spectacle on stage so much. And then I think also one of the things when we talk about, like, when COVID kind of broke us all up and all that kind of stuff, people have these sort of independent experiences in the audience watching the music, and then they come out of into the lobby or whatever after the concert and they talk to each other. And I love when people are like, I didn't really like that. Well, I really like that. And the conversations that happen. So it's interesting. I feel like it's like the best of both worlds where you are having an independent experience. Like, no one knows if you're actually, like, actively listening to the music or if you're zoning out, if you're doing your grocery list, whatever. I mean, one of my favorite things too at concerts is when we see people have their eyes closed. They could be legitimately sleeping. I don't know. I choose to think that we've created a safe space for them where they feel relaxed and they feel safe. And they're just taking it all in.
Totally.
And I honestly do kind of count when people have their eyes closed. But then because you're joining people in a room for this, you get to talk about it after and talk about, was it really boring? Like, when did your daughter start to fidget? What happened then? Like, and then did, some cool percussion thing happen that shocked her back into paying attention? Like, there's so many dynamics to it. And so one of my big objectives now, as hopefully I don't know, say new normal, whatever.
We got to figure out a better term.
Yeah, it's kind of played
Regina
out.
2.0.
Yeah, but I'm like, I really want symphony, and I think, galleries, live theater, all those sorts of things. Like, you don't have to be an expert to go. You just have to, like, have an appreciation for these are people that live in our community that are doing something special. And I think that's all we want from everyone. Like, if you're a small business, if you are a hairdresser, like, all these things, you want someone to come and support your skill set. And I mean, symphony, I just think it's surrounded by a lot of barriers of, like, people don't know how to dress. And
but you
sent
us an email beforehand, which I found very useful. Yeah. I didn't expect it, and, like, talk about good customer service. And it was like, this is what you can expect, and it outlined it to me. Yeah. And I thought that was really, really neat. And the other thing that I've noticed too is you guys also just don't do, like, what we would envision a stuffy symphony would be. Like, before you came onto the show today, we were talking about there was a play about a movie that Tom Hanks is in.
Yeah.
And it's an opera.
Yeah.
I love how people are taking ordinary, random stuff and making it into a musical. And I remember didn't you guys have like a Mario Symphony?
Yeah, we've done
Star Wars.
I mean, it's
there's some epic things you guys have done.
It's very interesting because even like we did a Baroque music series. So I'm not an expert on this stuff, but so Baroque is essentially like it's from the 1500s, ancient music. Like they didn't have metal instruments; they had wooden everything. But it's actually like the first pop music. It was sort of established that it would be smaller music that could be played in courts of, kings and queens and all that kind of stuff. And people would sit and like show, this is my favorite Baroque group. And, it's like Bach and Haydn and those sorts of names. That's where they developed from, is the Baroque series or Baroque period. And then of course it's developed, but like all of the music we do, if it's really, really old, it's still foundational to new music. And then now, when you look at orchestral music, it's used in video games, it's used in movies. Like, I don't know if it, like, Succession, I'm pretty much thinking, like...
It's a character, almost.
The music is so incredible, and the drama it adds, and if that was just, like, I don't know, an electric guitar or something, like, it probably would have been really dramatic to you, but the fact that they chose to use orchestral music like that... and yeah, I think the symphony, we have to just do a better job of inviting people in. And I think why I feel like this is just like, I'm so glad I'm in the seat that I'm in there, is that I can invite my friends who, and it happens all the time that people are sort of, there is a sense of embarrassment or like, I've just never bothered to go. And if I can remove the barrier by like, hey, I'm emailing you tickets, see you there. Because I think that's a big part of Regina culture too, is just how do we get people to show up? Well, how do you actually show up for something? Like, it's all great to be like, I like that this is happening. Like, but then to actually go to the thing seems to be a hurdle that is insurmountable for a lot of us. And I will say that I'm totally guilty for that too. So I'm trying to, the more people we can get in the hall to have those great experiences and see how fun and interesting it is. And if that inspires, to go listen to more things. There's lots of great programs to access music education in the city. So, I'm working on trying to highlight those. Like Regina Public Library, you can go take out a violin with your library card. Like, there's cool ways to access it, but I think it's in the bigger picture of Regina, and it's always the big problem, is how do people find out about things? How do they choose to go to that thing versus
and spend their dollars on it? And
their dollars, yeah.
You guys have options. Like, it's not like you just... Like, you can buy one ticket. Yep. You can buy... I think somewhere I thought it was like as low as like maybe $35 or something.
Yeah, we actually, for if you're 30 and under, we have a $20 ticket. I don't know, but
I'm not anymore.
I know. Well, but honestly, like we it's a balance, right? Like, we are a nonprofit charitable organization, and I often do say, and I mean it's really true. Like, when you buy a ticket to something, like you're getting involved. Buy a tote bag, you buy any of these things. You're buying more than that bag. You're buying more than that seat. You're supporting all the people in the city that are, that are
work
employed
together.
By this. Like the symphony, we use like local vendors for as much as possible. So every ticket that helps, and even like we're supporting local performing arts venues, right? That are a super important part of. You might just go there because it's like where your high school graduation's held, but then it's also like Connects Arts Center is a super active. They're bringing shows in all the time. They have meetings. They have all these things. They're a huge part of a gathering place in the community, and the symphony is a part of that. But that's what our ticket goes to, and it's
keeping that energy alive in our city.
Yeah, and it's like every dollar that you spend. It's just not that we're like in the same kind of category as a local business, but every dollar that's given to the symphony is very meaningful. Like, we actually had someone, I think they're trying to be helpful, but they sent us an email a while ago saying they were like just really shocked that our ticket prices were so high. And that like perception on value and cost and all that kind of stuff is one thing, but this person confidently said they would spend $350 on Beyonce tickets, but not on the Regina Symphony. And I was like, all right, so we're obviously like, we're not Beyonce.
Well, but also, like, come on.
I know,
you're not comparing apples to...
No.
Like, come on.
But, so I had to kind of be like, all right, $350 to Beyonce, she could probably, like, lose that in her couch and wouldn't be too worried about it. The symphony, that's like, maybe you're buying 2 tickets to see us for a whole season. Like, the support on that, like, we're going to see you 8 times maybe, And at our concerts, you're going to be a part of 8 different live experiences with us. Like, it's so meaningful.
What an investment of so many experiences.
Yeah, but I think but especially now in these, like, weird times, like, people are, like, the value for their money. And telling people that, you know, you're by buying these local things, going to these local events, more than, like, movie tickets or, you know, traveling away to go to concerts, that kind of stuff. Like, you're supporting the city and many, many, many people in it.
Yes. And we're keeping that system going again and again, and we're helping each other grow a really sustainable, beautiful city that we want. And without culture, what do we have?
I know.
It was honestly a shocking experience how, like, I felt the music.
Yeah.
And I honestly think that anybody that can muster up, you know, an evening out with their partner or maybe a girls' night out, you will be surprised.
Absolutely.
Trust me. Like, get your girlfriends together. It starts a little bit later, so you could totally grab, like, a little cocktail beforehand. Go have that experience, and then afterwards, you will have a conversation that means more than most conversations you had all day, because you all have experienced such a powerful experience. It really was, and it is the collective 60 playing together. So I have a few more minutes. Can you explain to me, because I don't understand, how do we get a symphony together? Like, is this like, are people paid to be in the symphony? Do they audition? Like, I don't understand.
Sure. So, I mean, I'm the most familiar with the Regina Symphony. There are lots of different models. Like, there are, like, training orchestras. There are, like, the LA Phil. They're, like, full-time, like, crazy. They're like a recording orchestra.
Busy.
So for the Regina Symphony Orchestra, we started, like, 115 years ago, and it was basically when the RCMP set up shop in Regina. There was a lot of people that had played instruments and wanted something to do. So they got together and started. And it's been iterative. Like, we were officially Regina Symphony in the 70s. And now, we're a fully unionized, so it's the American Federation of Musicians, AFM.
So they get benefits.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah, it's great. Well, I mean, if you're choosing to play an orchestral instrument, like, you're advocating for yourself all the time anyway, so you might as well at least have, like, know that you're going to get paid a minimum. And so for the Regina Symphony, we have 12 full-time musicians. So they are essentially the first chair of the different orchestra families. So we have violin, cello, viola, oboe, clarinet, flute, French horn, trumpet, double bass, and bassoon.
Oboe,
yes.
Oh,
yeah. So there's 12 of them. They're full-time employed with us. So basically, what that means is we can, full-time for our contract, which is between September and June. So they are essentially our community ambassadors. So we send them out to community concerts. We actually often can offer them for free. So the chamber player, they're called the Regina Symphony Chamber Players. We do free concerts at the library. We do lots of stuff. We'll go out to Moose Jaw, Weyburn. So they're also, like, the leaders of the orchestra. And then from there, we have extra musicians that join us. They're called per service. So they're basically on a contract. They do audition for those positions.
Okay.
And then it's based on what music we're playing, what instruments are needed. So there's actually, like, a code called